Lavrov has fallen out of favor with Putin. The head of the Russian foreign ministry is being sidelined. A meeting between Putin and Trump could take place in Budapest in just a few days, according to Orbán. The US has decided to win over longtime Kremlin allies to its side. The attempt is proving successful. Russian officials went abroad for vacation on National Unity Day. Meanwhile, Russian propaganda keeps hitting new lows. In Russia, people are criticizing the wedding of Shaman and Mizulina, while Ukrainian Special Operations Forces have set Russian oil depots on fire in temporarily occupied Crimea. Hello everyone, my name is Eva Nikolashvili and this is the V-Trend program. Like and subscribe because we're getting started. Putin gave Lavrov a dressing down and banished him from his inner circle. Moreover, the main Russian workhorse is facing an internal investigation. All because of the failed meeting between Putin and Trump. The Kremlin pinned the blame for this failure on Lavrov, and apparently quite deservedly so. The Financial Times also reported that the head of the Russian Foreign Ministry made overly maximalist demands on the US regarding Ukraine. Russian social media channels even claimed that during his meeting with Rubio, Lavrov behaved rudely. And we're talking about what amounts to sabotage.
Lavrov really did speak to Rubio in a rude manner. Rubila essentially revoked the promises Putin had made during his previous conversation with Trump. No one had given the minister such directives. Lavrov's sabotage could cost him dearly.
I would say it already is costing him. There are several facts indicating that Lavrov has fallen out of favor with the Tsar. For example, the head of the Russian Foreign Ministry was the only one who did not attend the important Security Council meeting on November 5th, where the bunker man once again threatened the US with nuclear exercises. Moreover, it is already known that Lavrov has lost his status as the head of the Russian delegation at the G20 summit, which will take place in November. This year, the delegation will be led by the deputy head of the presidential administration of the Russian Federation, Maxim Oreshkin. As Kremlin press secretary Dmitry Peskov stated, the decision to appoint Oreshkin was made by Putin himself. So, do you think they've sent the Kremlin's main workhorse to the slaughter? By the way, speaking of a meeting between Putin and Trump, it could still happen, and very soon. At least that's what Orbán assures us. The Hungarian Prime Minister stated that supposedly the American and Russian leaders could meet in Budapest in just a few days. He says that it's just a matter of settling one or two remaining issues between Washington and Moscow. But The Guardian has different information. They write that Orbán is actually planning to persuade Trump to meet with Putin in Budapest. He plans to do this during his visit to the United States. But for Orbán, there is a lot of personal interest involved. It would simply be advantageous for him if Trump visited Budapest before the elections in the country. According to his advisors, Trump's visit would strengthen Orbán's role as a statesman and energize his conservative base. And while Orbán is playing his own games, Trump is actively trying to win over Russia's allies. The American president is working to make longtime friends of the Kremlin turn away from Putin. Recently, Donald Trump received the leaders of 5 Central Asian countries, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, and Uzbekistan, at the White House. They want to strengthen their influence in a region rich in mineral resources, which has long been dominated by Russia and is increasingly attracting China's attention. The meeting, by all appearances, was successful. At the very least, the US managed to win Uzbekistan over to their side. Washington and Tashkent signed a package of agreements, and the head of Uzbekistan, Shavkat Mirziyoyev, along with his partner governor, did not miss the chance to flatter the American president.
We have felt your close attention and your attitude, and that is very important to us. We sincerely thank you for that. In fact, I would like to repeat, I've already told you this, in Uzbekistan, we call you the President of Peace. You have done so much. You managed to stop 8 wars. And I am convinced that only you can stop the war between Russia and Ukraine. And we are really hoping for that.
There was also good news regarding Kazakhstan. Trump announced that Kazakhstan has joined the Abraham Accords. These agreements are aimed at developing cooperation between Israel and the countries of the Muslim world. A blow also came from Azerbaijan. Aliyev stated that the Azerbaijani army is being brought in line with NATO standards and in this context is closely cooperating with the Turkish army. We like this kind of news, but as for Putin, he's probably crying somewhere. What do you think? Will the US be able to win over Russia's loyal allies? I'm especially interested in the opinions of Kazakhs, Uzbeks, and Azerbaijanis. I know you're watching us. Share your thoughts in the comments and also let us know if people in your country support the Ukrainians' fight against the empire of evil. I read all the comments. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss anything interesting. Speaking of Putin, the bunker dweller has broken a record for appointing relatives to leadership positions. It turns out that the Russian Tsar has helped at least 24 of his close relatives get positions of power in Russia, according to the Russian publication Prokt. This is, in all likelihood, a record figure for Russian rulers in the past 100 years. Top positions have gone to the branch of the Russian president's cousin, Yevgeny Putin. Its representatives, Anna Tsivileva, Sergei Tsivilev, and Mikhail Putin, have received positions in the Russian government and Gazprom. The branch of his cousin on his parents' side controls another state-owned company. Putin's nephew, Viktor Kamarin, heads Rus Hydro. Among other things, according to journalists, families of all four of Putin's known women receive income connected to Russian state structures. This includes the families of his ex-wife, Lyudmila Ocheretnaya, Alina Kabieva, Svetlana Krivonogik, and Alisa Karcheva, as well as his two daughters, Maria Barantsova and Ekaterina Tikhonova. And besides, Kabaeva's children are growing up and they'll need to be placed somewhere too. By the age of 12, they can already start working to beat Danka Kadyrov's record.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine Today. Join us now.
Meanwhile, journalists found out where Russian officials spent their November holidays. You know, during this so-called National Unity Day. Sochi, St. Petersburg, Siberia, maybe they even dropped by Belgorod. But no. But to be fair, there was still unity among Russian officials. They all chose to go abroad. One of the most popular destinations was the UAE. On October 31st, a plane belonging to the head of Chechnya, Ramzan Kadyrov, landed in Dubai. Dmitry Medvedev also flew to the Emirates. He arrived in Abu Dhabi on October 31st. That same day, he flew to Moscow, and on November 4th, he unexpectedly flew to Mumbai. On October 31st, it is likely that First Deputy Prime Minister Denis Manturov also arrived in Abu Dhabi. On November 5th, Manturov's jet flew to Tel Aviv. Oligarchs close to Putin also preferred to leave, according to journalists. For example, Arkady Rotenberg chose Azerbaijan for his vacation, while the owner of Severstal, Alexei Mordashov, may have vacationed in the Maldives. His plane landed there on November 1st. And while Russian officials are relaxing, Russian men are dying like flies at the front. In particular, during the capture of Pokrovsk. In Russia, they no longer hesitate to say that their army is suffering colossal losses there. In particular, this was stated by Gherkin Strelkov's associate, the writer and propagandist Maxim Kalashnikov. He compared the losses during the capture of Pokrovsk to those suffered at Bakhmut. One of the main reasons is that the Russian army cannot complete the encirclement of the Ukrainian city. Additionally, he compared the Russian army to the Wehrmacht. Very symbolic.
What exactly is the difficulty of the situation for us? The fact is, we still haven't managed to completely encircle Pokrovsk geographically. And that's why we're forced to push them out, meaning we have to fight urban battles. And the losses there are very high, of course, on both sides. For us, they are comparable to Bakhmut, to the battles for Bakhmut. Remember, when Yevgeny Prigozhin was alive, he announced this figure. 20,000 killed just among Wagner fighters for Bakhmut. And probably no fewer from the units generally subordinate to the Ministry of Defense. And I want to remind you that when the Wehrmacht took Poland in September 1939, its losses were just over 20,000. So here, just one Bakhmut cost as much. And in such, so to speak, loss figures.
Russian propaganda continues to hit new lows. A propagandist from Solovyov's entourage is seriously claiming that pigs are being walked and scythes are being grazed on Independence Square. Just listen.
To make it as clear and understandable as possible for Belarusian viewers, every time I come to the Republic, I truly admire the cleanliness. Such absolute sterility. Look at what these people have turned Ukrainian cities into. You see, when the city center, the Maidan, the former Kalinin Square, is a place where they walk little pigs, some goats and sheep. Well, I can hardly imagine someone grazing cows in front of my favorite museum in Minsk, the Museum of the Great Patriotic War. That would probably be impossible. But over there, it's become a normal practice.
By the way, speaking of animals, Russians still can't get over the wedding of Shaman and Mizulina in temporarily occupied Donetsk. They probably wanted to be admired, but ended up being pecked at by their own. The deputy from Gazduri Astana even criticized them and also called the wedding of Shaman and Mizulina a show-off event.
The ones shaping the image of today's child, teenager, or young person are not those who have feathered their nests over there, all pink and with all sorts of other gimmicks and such. All these showy weddings in the special operations zone, I feel like that's not for us.
Meanwhile, the occupiers now have a remote-controlled loaf van. You might find it funny, but Russians are saying that this is a breakthrough. They claim that the vehicle can be controlled with a gaming steering wheel and pedals. Thanks to Wi-Fi, 4G, and Starlink, the control range is unlimited. The enemy claims that this will help deliver ammunition and supplies to positions more safely. Of course, that's if it actually makes it there, because, as we all know, this car is already broken down while still in the showroom.
Nelly, come on. You can do it, Nelly. Just a little more. First gear. Got it. Second gear. Got it. Third gear, got it. Fourth. Reverse.
And finally, beautifully, on the night of November 6th, Special Operations Forces did a great job targeting Russian oil depots in temporarily occupied Crimea. Now, they've shown this incendiary video. According to the Special Forces, the Gvardeyskaya oil depot on the peninsula was hit, where a filled RVS 400 storage tank was destroyed. In the same area, 2 trains with tank cars were hit at the loading and unloading rack. At the moment of impact, the rolling stock was loaded with petroleum products. Drones also paid a visit to several oil depots from fuel and lubricants warehouses in Simferopol and the surrounding areas.